can't have the inmates running the prison. McNair apologized for the comment, and the assumption was he was referring to players protesting during the national anthem. But he told the Wall Street Journal that he was referring to league execs, not players. McNair went on to say, the main thing I regret is apologizing. I really didn't have anything to apologize for. We were talking about a number of things, but we were also washing some of our dirty linen, which you do internally. You don't do that publicly. That's what I was addressing. The relationship of owners and the league office in business, it's a common expression, but the general public doesn't understand it, perhaps. Shannon, do you have a problem with this?
I have an absolute problem. And Skip Bayless, I have the utmost respect. And even when I sent you last night and I said I would like to talk about this, I addressed him, Mr. McNair.
You did. In the text, you did.
I always...
You know what? My first thought was you didn't really need to do that, but go ahead.
Mr. McNair is being disingenuous. I'm not going to say he's lying, but he's misspeaking the truth. This meeting was taking place because it was in reference to the players kneeling in protest.
It was.
Jerry Jones spoke.
Yep.
It's being reported. Jerry Jones was speaking. Daniel Snyder was mumbling. Yeah, I agree, Jerry. 96% say they want the players to stand. You and I both know. To get 96% on anything is asking an awful lot. Mr. McNair stood up after Jerry Jones and echoed a lot of the sentiments and said we cannot have the inmates running the prison.
He did.
Troy Benson was in that meeting. He stood up after Mr. McNair sat down and said he was offended by what he said.
And by the way, Troy Benson is African-American.
African-American.
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, he's kind of almost the number 2
he is.
to Roger Goodell.
Yep.
After the meeting, Mr. McNair pulled Troy aside and apologized. He also went back to his team, had a team meeting and apologized for what he said. Dwayne Brown wasn't buying that bull jive, saying that's not what he meant. He was talking about league execs when the meeting was about the players and the protest, Skip. That's what the meeting was about. And then he said, well, Dwayne Brown was trying to be a troublemaker. No, Dwayne Brown wasn't buying your bull jive. And that was the problem that you had with it.
And what happened to Dwayne Brown 3 days later?
They traded him.
Shipped him.
They traded him.
Okay,
now, he also, in this article, he's saying that we try to stay out of politics. Does Mr. McNair think this is 1940 or 1950 that you can say or do something and we not know? Mr. McNair, you gave $1 million to President Trump inauguration fund. Does he know that the president is a political office, is a political figure that he's not staying out of? So did Daniel Snyder. See, at least Jerry tried to hide it. See, Jerry tried to run his through a whole lot of corporation joy so we couldn't know, but come to find out, hey, Jerry owns the companies that donated $1 million. Mr. McNair had no shame in his game because I said this before. What President Trump has done, he's made it okay to be openly and blatantly racist. Mr. McNair said, I apologize because the people that he said he's sorry that he apologized for apologizing are the very people that supports the candidate that he gave $1 million to. That's who he's talking to. He's not talking to the players. He's not talking to the people that understood why the players were doing it. He's apologizing to those fans that are upset at the players and trying to make it about something else. Mr. McNair, you ought to be ashamed of yourself because this is the same McNair that said Mr. Richardson didn't mean to offend nobody. I mean, it was, he probably was joking about it.
He said that.
Nobody even asked him about this. He brought this back up. Nobody asked him about Mr. Richardson. He brought this back up. Skip, they're going to stick together. That's what he's telling you. Because he was talking about the NFL execs that's making decisions without the owner. Skip, we know they stick together. They're going to band together. Mr. McNair, you're misspeaking the truth. When you talk about, you were not talking about what you were meaning. You meant that you cannot have those players thinking they're running the NFL, and we need to do something about it. That's what you meant.
I just can't agree with you anymore. So I'm going to sum this up by stepping back and explaining to everyone what we have here is an 80-year-old Texas billionaire, supremely proud, who stewed about his apology for about 6 months and finally just said, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to retract my apology because I apologize to nobody for nothing. And just to frame this, Bob McNair is actually not from Houston, Texas. He's from the Western Hills of North Carolina. You know this area pretty well. And he graduated from the University of South Carolina, where your brother went.
That's correct.
So that's his background. Then he became a self-made billionaire in Houston, Texas. So this is the guy you're dealing with. This is the guy that Dwayne Brown said during his rookie year, the day after Barack Obama was elected in 2008, our country's first, obviously, African-American president. This is from Dwayne Brown. He says, Mr. McNair came to talk to the team. He was visibly upset about it. I know a lot of y'all are happy right now, but it's not the outcome that some of us were looking for, said Mr. McNair, according to Dwayne, to the whole locker room. What's the locker room? Is it 75% black? Something like that?
Because you're looking at 68%, basically, I think 68 to 70% of the NFL is black.
So what did Mr. McNair think was going to happen when he made that kind of comment to that locker room, to his football team? What did he think? You want to talk about out of touch? You want to talk about clueless? Doesn't get it? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think the team's going to think?
As you mentioned, he's from North Carolina.
Yeah.
We know the history of North Carolina.
Yeah,
he went to South Carolina. We know South Carolina. I'm from the South.
Yeah.
I was a history minor, so I know what transpired. He went to Texas. He lives in Texas.
Okay.
And the man that he represents, he doesn't apologize. So he's like, I'm sorry that I've said I was sorry for something that I meant to say. Does he realize how he looks? Does he realize how he sounds?
Does he care?
No. Especially because the people that he offended can't do anything but catch a football or throw a football for him. They can offer him nothing. And that's how
Wouldn't you want them to like you and be happy in their jobs?
They don't care about no life skill. These guys have made it abundantly clear. They care about one thing. That's money. And the guys in protesting was costing them what they cared most about.
Yeah.
And Mr. McNair has made it abundantly clear to me. And I think he made it abundantly clear to Dwayne Brown. Because Dwayne Brown, I'm sure, Skip, I'm sure a lot of those guys that heard him say that that's not how I meant it. Skip, we know what a figure of speech is. When someone says, "Oh, that dude's big as a tree," or "He's strong as an ox," Skip, we know the literal and the figurative term. We know they're speaking metaphorically. But when we say the prisoners running the inmates, the inmates running the prison, it's the inmates running the asylum. But that's another thing. Let's get.
Well, that was the other thing through me. He even took it another level to prison. It used to be asylum.
Right.
Now it's prison.
But we understand that we can't let the players run the NFL by doing this. We say no, that should be it. Man, Mr. Mc, and he keeps bringing it up, though, Skip.
He does. Now, just to be fair about this, in his initial apology that the team issued on his behalf, he did say, I was not referring to our players, but nobody believed it then and nobody believes it now. So it wasn't like he tried to change his story yesterday.
Right.
He was trying to say then, I was referring to executives in the league.
Why didn't he tell Troy Benson that?
I don't know.
He didn't.
Why would you apologize to Troy Benson?
Exactly. Who's the African American that was in the room and said that he had heard he'd been called everything as a player, even the N-word, but he never felt like an inmate. He said, I'm deeply offended by what you said, Mr. McNair. Mr. McNair pulled him to the side. Why didn't he say then, I was talking about the league execs. I wasn't talking about African American players. Of course.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It doesn't even make any sense what he's saying. If he's against the protest, so why would he be so adamant about executives? There's literally no way it would make sense that statement applies to the executives. He's trying to say that
executives were too pro-player, but he's still saying that I'm anti-player.
Right.
Okay, so what's the...
So what are you saying? It was just making no sense.
Right.
But being adamant about making no sense.
And you know what? If he had just used the original cliche, don't let the inmates run the asylum, it wouldn't have felt as bad. When you go to prison, then it sounds like the players are your prisoners.
Exactly.
It's terrible. It's
Well,
worse.
I mean, I'll speak for myself. I didn't believe the apology in the first place. So him taking back the apology didn't change my opinion about what he said, because I never believed it in the first place. But a lot of people feeling real bold and empowered right now.
Yeah,
so.
they feel really good about themselves right now, Joy.
Cowboys coaches are ripping Des Bryant, and we'll discuss that next.
Stop clapping, Skip.